Hello, and welcome to the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. I'm Amanda Butland, your host and intuitive life coach. All right, welcome to another episode of the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. Today, my special guest is Marcus Jackson. Marcus, welcome. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Oh, thank you for the warm welcome. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So I always like to start out with a little icebreaker question. Would you mind sharing with us what activity or hobby brings you the most joy and why?
Going outside. It's a very easy thing to answer, but it's also the joy of being outside, breathing the fresh air, and just like seeing the sky and the weird shapes of clouds and stuff like that. I love being outside. It just reminds me how connected we all are to not only nature but also each individual that we can walk past and just smile at or say hi to. Just
Hmm.
love going for walks.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned the weird shape of clouds. That's like one of the things I always I'm always looking at as well. I'm like, wow. The amazing. And I just often sometimes just like marvel at like how amazing like nature is when you look at the sky, like especially like sunsets and sunrises where like the colors and the it's just so gorgeous and amazing at how beautiful nature can be. So thank you for sharing that.
Glad. Just any cloud enthusiasts out there or nature enthusiasts know that beauty is everywhere. It's always
Yeah.
accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we're here to talk about coaching. So I would love to hear a little bit about maybe your own journey. I know that you're also a coach. Maybe could you share with us a little bit about how you got to where you are today, sort of what your coaching journey was?
Whew. All right. So the coaching journey for me and where it started was an invitation through Discord. One of the things that I used to do a lot of when I was going through my own personal journey was always something fantastical, something supernatural. Um, my dad would share stories of the supernatural, big birds, ghosts, those kind of things. So I always saw life as something that you're always in the mystery of it and you never really understand what it is. And through science and everything else, you get a good basis for it, but you never get the full picture. And growing up in like a barren wasteland, the desert of Southern California, there was a lot that I really wanted to connect with, and I just didn't know how. So when this invitation came along, it invited me into learning about intuition. How does intuition work? What does it do? Why is it so important? And from there, I began to start connecting with other people. I started to open up, started to learn more about what I wanted, not just on the surface level of like, hey, I would like a nice job or a nice car. It was more of the foundations for the things that I really want to do, like connecting with other people, have more connection with nature. And within a short period of time, I went from living in the desert for 20 years to living in an area that was flush green, the four seasons. So I got to see trees change color and all kinds of things, get to see rivers and waterfalls. It was like shell shock how much can change in such a short period of time when you have something that you're passionate about. And for me, it was always what did I really want at heart? What was in me to deliver and make the focus of my life? And that was it.
Awesome. I love what you mentioned sort of earlier on in that, in how science sort of can explain so much, but then there's so much more to the world outside of that that is still like really a mystery to a lot, a lot of people as to what that all is. So that's so fascinating. And I do want to maybe get into a little bit more about, what it is, what is your flavor of coaching and what it is that you help people with.
My flavor of coaching, my favorite. So, one of the biggest things that I support other people in understanding and coming into contact with for themselves is true nature. It's something that is just you, it's who you are at your core, it's who is the most true version of who you are. Because so often we can kind of relegate our lives to like our achievements on some level, like, oh, I've had this job at this area, or I've done certain causes and charities and stuff like that, but there was always this underlying, what else is there? Like, really, what else is there? And being introduced to intuition and being able to be vulnerable with other people, I got to learn a lot about that nature. I got to learn a lot about other people and their nature and everything. And it's the side of life that we don't get to see anymore. It's things that used to be um, a big part of us as human beings, which is culture. One of the biggest cultures and one of the bigger tickets for culture was this growing up, this age in which you reach teenage age and you learn who you are. There used to be many tribes that celebrated it through medicine work, through shamanism, through all these different avenues, but it's gone. So most people don't get to see what that was about. And through intuition, through my own experience with ayahuasca, there was this understanding that we are storytellers, but we don't see how far we go with our own stories. Sometimes our stories actually hinder us from seeing what else is possible. So for me, growing up in a barren wasteland and not really feeling the connection to nature and to the people around me, there was always this absence of like, now you got to find a purpose, but you're never going to find it because it's supposed to be outside of yourself. Maybe you go into the military, maybe you work in the mine if you're lucky because that was the biggest gig that paid the most. That's for the lucky few. But none of that stuff ever clicked. None of that stuff ever made me feel anything or feel a connection. So when I got to see myself vulnerable, I got to see myself through ayahuasca. I got to realize that we pretty much have this understanding and this emotional imbalance that pushes us away from who we are. It doesn't allow us to really see ourselves very clearly. And that true nature, that ability to really be vulnerable with yourself, but also be honest and truthful with who you are, helps build so much out. Because somebody who's at a dead end job now, they could be somebody who would work a lot better working with kids or influencing the next generation, but they don't know that because nobody sees that in them. Nobody brings that to the surface or talks about it. When in reality, that might be the most true thing for them to do because it's a part of who they are. It's the way they talk, it's the way they carry themselves. Those things are true to who they are at their very core of who they are.
Wow, that's really interesting. It's so interesting that you talk about, sort of that true nature, uh, the what who a person really is. Because, you're right. A lot of people sort of as they're growing up, they're caught up in sort of modern society, right? There's all the shoulds, like you should do this, you should do that, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, and then really not even like taking the time to understand who you truly are, what it is that you truly desire, because you have all these expectations that either your parents put on you or society's putting on you, and you sort of like lose touch with yourself. So I love that this is sort of what your coaching flavor, like your flavor of coaching, what it is that you help people do is find that true authentic selves within them, that true nature that they have, and what it is that is their true purpose, what it is that they're meant to do, because oftentimes that is something that is hidden, gets buried, and that must be so hard for some people to really come out of that shell, to break off all those pieces of modern society, modern expectations, and then find that true nature within themselves. Can you maybe share a little bit more about maybe like how you're able to help people do this? Because it seems like it would be like really, really a tough shell to crack for some people.
I mean, absolutely. And that was always like the bigger draw. I always loved like really deep conversations. Who is this person? What is it that you really want to do? And that conversation and getting into it, especially with other people, it takes people who are really brave. It takes people who are ready and no longer want to really be alone in themselves, because that's who I work with the most. And I mean, men is where I'm geared towards, but it could be anybody who feels like they are more analytical, they're more in their head, and they need that kind of reflection so they can see themselves. And the conversation can be the conversation can be started in any kind of way. And so much of that relies on the person, because there are people who can reach that point where they're just like, I've done everything that I think I can do, and I still feel like I can't get anywhere on my own. And that's the biggest push for most people is, I know what I'm doing isn't like really pushing me or getting me there, and I really just need somebody who can see me. And when it comes to what I do and everything that I do for true nature, is show that to them, show them that there's a part of themselves that they're missing, because society shows the victim. Society shows the person who is beaten down, whose personality isn't the greatest, or somebody who doesn't really understand themselves fundamentally. But there's always the other side. It's the genius, it's the inspiration, it's the creator, the person who's able to create and put things out into the world. That's what I introduce people to. I
Mm.
introduce them to that and show them through like 3 months worth of connecting you and showing you that you have a greatness about you. You have, it's like manifest destiny in a sense, but it's you. You're manifesting who you are truly. But to introduce you to it, to show
Mm.
you that this is who you are, that's it. Everything else is just the walls that, unfortunately, because we don't have them anymore, that used to be the ritual to get rid of. You aren't that person, but we grow up thinking that we're that person, and society gears us to consider being that forever, rather than just, you can give that up. If you felt like you didn't belong when you were younger, you don't have to be that going out into the world. You can probably speak to people who feel that way, because they want to hear from people like that. They want to know that somebody else has gone through that journey and is willing to share it, and show them that they can do more, they can be more.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said something a little bit earlier around like needing to have the strength and the courage to do that work, right? Because it is hard work. It's not something that can easily just happen without any work. So having that strength and that courage to do that work, to really peel those layers off and become your true self. That's that is great. That is amazing work that you're helping people through, to get them to, that the to become their authentic selves.
Yeah. Because so often we can see ourselves in the situations that we're in, that we were born to, and never have that person who's like, I see you. I know there's more for you in this life. You don't have to wait. You don't have to put it off. You can come forward and show us what you got. And it can be playful. Like, it doesn't have to be serious. It was one of the greater understandings of intuition, is like, it's the first thing that comes to you, no matter what it is. But that can show you so much more about life, about how to play, how to engage, and honestly, just how to be yourself in a more authentic way, because you're not limited. And we see humanness as a weakness. We see thinking too much as a weakness. We see feeling too much as a weakness, but it's through anything that challenges you, anything that confronts you, you don't overcome it unless you're willing to go through it. You must go through it in order to overcome
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I also liked what you just said around, just being able to see people for who they are. Like you're there to help them not just do that, but be able to see them for that, because oftentimes they don't have somebody that sees who they really are and acknowledges that and validates that. Because as they are coming out of that shell, sometimes it is a little bit scary for them to show what's in there. And so I love that you offer that sort of that safe space for them to be able to show that, where you're able to acknowledge and validate that that's okay for them to come out of that shell and to be who they really are. So I love that you provide that for them.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been such a great conversation. I'm just wondering, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience today? Anything that's sort of at the top of your mind that you'd really like to get out there for people to hear today?
Ah, there is never a better time than right now to get to know yourself. And I mean that in the most general way, but in a very specific way as well, because life becomes this thing that it's constantly happening to you. And it's frankly one of my favorite quotes from Jim Carrey: life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And it's easy to get caught up in what you're thinking and how you're feeling about life and about the way people think about you or anything that's going on. But it's never too late to recognize when you need help and support to be your better self, because it will take work. It takes a level of vulnerability. It takes a desire to be truthful for who you are and take a stand for that. And all the encouragement in the world, it's always the first step that's the hardest, but
Yeah.
it is for you to take.
Awesome. I love that message. Thank you. It is. That first step is hard for somebody to say yes to themselves, because oftentimes they don't think that they can, right? That they can say yes for them, that there's some sort of um, stigma about that, like it's selfish or something, but
Yeah.
it, right? So yeah, thank you for that, giving people permission to say yes to themselves. I love that. Um, and also, yeah, like there is no better time than the now, because what else is there other than the now? The past is already in the past, the future's not here yet. All you have is the current present time. So thank you so much for offering that. And thank you so much for being on today. It's been a great conversation and I love what you're doing. And thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Anytime. It was a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to talk to you, Amanda.
I invite you to subscribe to the Embrace Balance Discover Joy podcast and join our community. If you feel inspired by what you hear, please leave a review and share this podcast with others who might benefit. And remember, it's never too late to embrace balance and discover joy in your life. Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes filled with inspiring stories and valuable insights. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself.